What's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today, in collaboration with Hasbro, we'll be taking a look at the upcoming Walmart exclusive Marvel Legends Classic Lizard. And I'm super excited about this figure. I think this is one of my most anticipated recently announced figures from Hasbro. This guy looks amazing. So let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the packaging. He does come in the same style packaging that we've seen with all the Spider-Man retro figures, and it's packaging that's based on the figures that came out during the 90s that were kind of based on the animated series. But the figure itself is not based on the animated series. It's more of like a classic looking lizard. And that's awesome because I feel like that's a version of the character that we've needed for a very long time. I don't think we've really seen one in Marvel Legends. I know that Toy Biz had a couple back in the day, but they never quite like captured that classic look for the lizard. But this one, man, this thing looks amazing. But yeah, I really love this old school retro packaging. It definitely speaks to my childhood. I was really into Spider-Man and X-Men and all that good stuff back in the 90s. So when I see this stuff, it brings back memories from those times. But it looks awesome. Right up here, we have some awesome looking artwork of the lizard. You're able to see him through the window, and you can see all the awesome accessories he comes with. And it's great to see that they packed in so many accessories in this, because it does kind of feel like the packaging leaves limited space. But with Lizard and some other characters, they have been able to find a way to put a bunch of accessories in there, so I'm excited about that. And then right here, it does say Spider-Man 60 Amazing Years. Up here, we see Spidey hanging out on the Spider-Man text, and then we have the old school Marvel Comics logo. That's always awesome to see. On the back, we get a little bit of information about the Lizard, aka Kurt Connors, and then we do have this old school looking graphic that kind of shows how we're able to change out the parts. And then we have some artwork right here of the Lizard, and that's about it for the packaging. It's not collector friendly or any of that, but it does look amazing. I love the way all these retro cards look hanging on the wall. The Spider-Man retro stuff have been the only figures that I bought doubles of, because they're putting out some amazing stuff, so obviously I gotta buy them and open them. But I really love the way they look in the packaging hanging on the wall. So, you know, this is the very rare time where I'm actually collecting doubles, because I want to display them in the packaging. They've really been killing it with the Spider-Man packaging. But enough about the pretty box. Let's go ahead and get Lizard out and take a look. Dang! Well, okay, so here we have the Lizard right out of the packaging. And man, Hasbro really did a great job on this guy. He pretty much has everything that we've been wanting to see out of Marvel Legends. He's got a completely new sculpt with a bunch of detail. He's got pinless elbows, pinless knees, a bunch of great articulation, some cool accessories. Just everything that Marvel Legends should have, the Lizard has. And man, I cannot believe what a great job that Hasbro did on this guy. He is absolutely incredible. Once I took him out of the box, I couldn't put him down, man. I was playing around with him. It actually took me forever to get back to the recording process, because I was sitting there playing with this figure for so long. He's so much fun to handle, but man, look at that thing. And I know not everybody is crazy about like his head sculpt, but the thing is, you know, this figure is based on like a very old school classic version of the character, and in my opinion, it captures that look perfectly, especially the head sculpt. I think it looks awesome. I'm a big fan of those old school designs though, you know. I really love them. And when they decide to go back and give us like accurate versions of those old school designs, I always appreciate it. And man, I just love the fact that Hasbro put so much love into this. Once again, with the villain. You know, it seems like Hasbro puts their all into their villains, and I'm happy to see that that's what they did with the Lizard, because man, they really did a great job on him. So on the last Hasbro live stream, they did kind of tease that they were going to be doing some stuff with some soft goods. Like at the end of it, they kind of busted out like a little white soft goods lab coat. And I kind of thought that maybe they were going to include that with this Lizard or something. But it turns out that's not the case. He just has the plastic jacket. And, you know, obviously soft goods is always better when it comes to something big like this. But I've got to say, they did a great job on this jacket. The plastic is super thin, so it doesn't really hinder the figure's articulation whatsoever. You could kind of move it out of the way with no problem at all. It looks good. I like the way the material feels. It's like a very thin plastic. It's not too big and awkward or anything like that. So I'm perfectly fine with this jacket. And, you know, if they're going to do jackets like this that are different with unique sculpts that feel good, then I'm okay with them doing plastic jackets, you know. I was just getting tired of them using that old Nick Fury jacket over and over. Hopefully they do away with that and do more stuff like what they did here, because this jacket came out really good. And then he does have a bendy wire in the tail. And another thing I like about the tail, aside from the bendy wire, is that it's not too big and heavy, so it really doesn't weigh the figure down from the back all that much. Yeah, you do kind of have to compensate it when you're posing them or whatever, but for the most part, it's not too big, and it's not too big of a burden when you're just trying to have the figure stand there, or when you're trying to pose them around and things like that. So they did do a pretty good job with the tail. I'm happy with that. But yeah, man, this thing is absolutely incredible. They really outdid themselves with this one. So, getting in close to take a look at the details on him, the lizard was sculpted by Renee from Gentle Giant, and man, he really did a fantastic job on here. And I was surprised by the amount of detail that the lizard has. Like, he really went crazy with it, and you know, he has more detail than we're used to seeing on the standard Marvel Legends figure, and that's just amazing to see. I welcome that all day. Hopefully we see this level of detail on future figures. But man, look at his head sculpt. This is a very accurate, classic lizard head sculpt. It is so perfect. And look at the details on there too. And I love how, like, the pattern of the scales kind of continue on from, like, the head to the neck. Look at that. I think that is really dope. You can see, like, it's a very similar pattern on the neck than it is on the head, you know. It just kind of follows the top of the head, comes down to the nose, and then just look at that scaly look that he has. They did a good job painting the eyes. It's all very clean. The tongue looks good. Yeah, man, I love this head sculpt. And the detail carries on into the neck. It's a beautiful looking head sculpt. And then moving down into the body, this kind of caught me by surprise. It might be hard to see, but the shirt actually has some texture sculpted on it. I mean, you could see the wrinkles, you know, that's kind of standard. But the amount of detail and texture that we see on the actual shirt was a welcome surprise. It's kind of hard to see right here, but yeah, there's a lot of great texture on there, so that's nice. And then the jacket, you know, it's kind of white, so it's a little blown out. It's kind of hard to see the details on there, but you can see the pocket right there, which looks good. And then, you know, we have some wrinkles, and then his torn shirt. And then down here to the hand, look at the details on there, man. That looks amazing. Really nice work. And then for the pants, you know, he's got his purple pants going. Those are nice. Pinless joints that look really good. And then his feet. Man, I love the way the feet look. I love the green on there too. That looks amazing. Damn, look at the detail on there. It's crazy. And then taking a look at the tail. The tail is extremely well done too. And you do have those holes that we always see on, like, bendy wire stuff. But yeah, as far as the way the tail looks, it's amazing, man. They killed it. Yeah, just in general, I was really surprised by the amount of detail that the lizard has. I really love the way the actual body parts look, you know, the green and the scales, and just the level of detail is insane on there. And then, you know, the shirt looks really good too. Again, the amount of detail on the shirt really caught me by surprise. So yeah, they killed it. Hasbro and Gentle Giant really did an incredible job on him, and they went above and beyond in regards to the sculpt. So I'm very happy to see that on a Marvel Legends figure. And then for accessories, we have a couple of pretty cool things. First off, we have two different sets of hands. We have a set of open hands. And then for the next set, we have a fist on the right side and then a gripping hand on the left side. And then he also comes with these two beakers, I think they're called. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. If you're a scientist and you know exactly what these things are called, let me know in the comments. If you're not a scientist, I don't want to hear it. But yeah, these are dope, man. These came out very cool. And again, they're fitting for the character. So I really like that they included this. It's kind of, you know, this is one of those things where, like, you think about the lizard and maybe like an obvious accessory doesn't come to mind, but then you kind of think about the character and, you know, you get creative with it. So I'm happy that Hasbro took the extra step and gave us something cool like these things. And then if you're insane and for some reason you don't love this classic head sculpt, he comes with an additional head sculpt that doesn't look quite as classic. It looks a little bit more menacing and I would say a little bit more like modern, you know? It doesn't have like a slightly goofy kind of feel to it. This one does look a little bit more mean. It looks like he would definitely give Spider-Man a hard time. But yeah, this one is equally as well sculpted as the previous one. And you got the tongue sticking out. The tongue is like soft plastic, but it's not like a bendy wire or anything like that. But still looks good. The eyes are yellow. This one kind of reminds me of like the animated series a little bit. You know, not 100%, but certain things about it kind of remind me of the animated series. And yeah, this is a great looking head sculpt. I like this a lot. But to be 100% honest, I like the classic head sculpt a little bit more. But both of them are Beautifully sculpted, well done head sculpt. So now for some size comparisons, here we have the Lizard alongside the Marvel Legends PS4 Advanced Suit Spider-Man and the Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man. And you know, having Lizard next to these Spider-Man figures, it kind of feels like maybe he should be a little bit bigger, but I'm not too bothered by the size, because if you look at like old drawings of the Lizard and Spider-Man fighting each other, the Lizard isn't that much bigger than Spider-Man. But right here, I feel like they may just be a little bit too close, but you know, I'm fine with it. I think that he is bigger than the Retro Spider-Man, so it works. He's just not like huge in comparison to him. And you know, depending on what art you're looking at, that may or may not be accurate. But I think as it is right now, it's passable for sure. And then next up, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Ultimate Miles Morales Spider-Man and the Marvel Legends Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales Spider-Man. And to get him in here alongside some other Spidey villains, here we have him with the Marvel Legends Retro Shocker and the Marvel Legends HasCon exclusive Venom. And then for some more villains, here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Retro Electro and the Marvel Legends Retro Hammerhead. And then last but not least, of course, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. And yeah, I think he would have benefited from being just a little bit bigger, but honestly, it's not really going to bother me too much. This figure has way too much positive things going for it for me to get distracted by the size, because honestly, I really don't think that he's like tiny or too small. I just think he would have benefited from being a little bit bigger. But as I said before, this is a classic Lizard, and I do feel like it's pretty accurate to the way that Lizard was portrayed way back in the day. You know, as time goes on, like they made all the villains bigger and crazier. You know, Juggernaut didn't used to be as big as the Hulk, but now he takes up like all the space on a panel. So, you know, things change throughout time, but back in the day, I do feel like Lizard was much smaller than he's portrayed a lot of times these days. So this figure works for that version of the character. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the new Lizard alongside the Hasbro Marvel Legends Lizard Build-A-Figure. And I've always thought this was a very cool figure, even though he does have some problems. You know, his legs are kind of weird. You're not able to extend them all the way, so he has some trouble standing. And then the tail is kind of awkward because it doesn't have a bendy wire. It just has a couple of awkward points of articulation. And you know what? I've never finished this Build-A-Figure, actually. Thankfully, my boy Adam let me borrow this one so I could throw it in this video. But you know, now that I have it like in hand, I'm like, dang, I wish I would have finished it, because it is a very cool figure. But to be honest with you, I prefer the classic look for the character. Like, the Build-A-Figure is awesome and everything, but it just, like, in my mind, that's not how I see the Lizard. He kind of looks more like a dinosaur, honestly. But he is very big and menacing and a little bit more ferocious, so it's a very cool interpretation of the character. And, you know, I've seen him look like this in the comics, so it's not like it's inaccurate or anything. But for me, when I think about Lizard, I think of, like, this classic Lizard that still kind of has, like, a bit of, like, humanity to him, you know? So, yeah, I like this new one a lot, and, you know, this old one is awesome. I'm going to have to backtrack and build him. I have a couple of the parts. I just never completed it, because I had another classic Lizard. I had the Diamond Select classic Lizard, and I thought, you know, that was the one for me because it had that classic look. But now I'm happy to have one that fits very well with my Marvel Legends. Yeah, but now that I'm handling this Build-A-Figure, I'm gonna have to get that too, so I can have both of them and let them both represent the two different interpretations of the character. And then when it comes to the articulation, I would say that's probably one of the strongest aspects of this figure. I just love the articulation setup on him, and I wish that they would use it on all their Marvel Legends figures, because he's got a lot of great stuff going on. There are a couple of things that they left out that I feel that if they would have included him, he would have benefited from those things. But I think for the most part, he has everything that he really needs, and the articulation is more than satisfying, and he's a whole bunch of fun to pose around and play with. So I'm extremely happy with it. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the head. I really love the way they did the head and neck setup. It feels like Hasbro's been kind of experimenting with the way they do like heads and necks and stuff, and I think this is probably the best that we've seen them do. So what we have here is a ball joint at the lower neck, so we get some really great movement out of that, as you could see. And then he does have a ball hinge at the top of the neck. So obviously the head itself does move on the ball joint, and then you're able to hinge his head way up here. Look at that. So you could get him to look like all the way up, which is awesome. And then you could get him to look down to about right there, which, look at that. That is really great too. And then, you know, if you ever want to get him into like crawling around poses or whatever, that's easy to do because of the head and neck setup. Look at that. That is awesome. You could maybe even get it to go a little bit more. Man, I love that so much. That's amazing. And then he does have a diaphragm cut and an ab crunch. So using both of those, you could bring them forward a crazy amount. Look at that. And like I said before, the jacket doesn't really get in the way all that much. But look at the ab crunch going forward. That is amazing. Then it goes back to about right there. Going back, then the jacket will kind of get in your way. But, you know, that's fine. And then he can twist from the diaphragm cut, which is great. And then, obviously, you can move side to side on that diaphragm cut. And I always love to see a diaphragm cut like this because I think it gives, like, the most dynamic poses. And then the ab crunch is always awesome too because you could get that super deep crunch forward. So this is kind of like the best of both worlds. It's very similar to, like, you know, Lightning Collection and stuff like that. So I think that is awesome. I really love the torso. I love the head and neck setup. They did a really great job with all that. And then moving on to the arms, he does have ball joints at the shoulders that do go all the way around. And then you could bring his arm up to right there, which is really nice. So yeah, that works, right? It would have been cool if they found a way to give him some butterfly joints, but, you know, it's probably a little difficult because of the jacket and stuff, so it's understandable. And, you know, I'm fine with the arms as they are. You could get them in front of them a pretty good amount. Let's check that out, yeah. So you could have them, you know, choking Spider-Man out. That'll work. And then he does have upper bicep swivel. He's got double jointed elbows. Bam, look at that awesome bend right there. That'll work. And let's see what else we have going on here. He does have a swivel at the wrist and a hinge at the wrist. Doesn't look like his forearm moves at all, but you know, that's fine. He's got nice hinging hands for those like expressive poses. Looks down at his hands like, what have I done? You know, that'll work. Ooh, bars. I love it. And then at the hips, he doesn't have drop down hips, which I kind of thought he would. Once I saw like the torso and stuff, I thought they would have given him drop down hips, but they did not. But still, it's okay. You could get his legs up to about right there. Could bring him back to about right there. Ooh, look at that. They go out to the side a really good amount. You could kick Spidey in his head. Bam. That'll work. I am noticing a little bit of rubbing in here from bringing his leg up, so that might be something that might have to look out for. But yeah, some pretty good movement at the hips, and then he does have upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees. Bam, look at that. Those get a pretty good bend right there. We'll get to his tail in a minute. And then let's see, at the lower legs we have a swivel. Yes, nice, nice. After Sabretooth, I thought maybe they would have left that out, but nope, it's there. So that's good. And at the foot, goes way forward to right there. You could bring it up to about right there. And then we get rocking ankles. And then as for the tail, it does swivel around. It doesn't hinge or anything. I kind of wish that it did, but it does swivel. And then there's a bendy wire in there. So you have all kinds of options with the tail. So I like the way they did the tail, but I think it would have benefited from a hinging joint in there as well. But not at the expense of the swivel. I think the swivel's probably better. So maybe they had to choose between the two. But yeah, the tail's awesome. Pose it around. Feels strong and stuff, so that's good. But yeah, man, the articulation on this guy is ridiculous. I'm having so much fun posing him around and playing with them. You could get him into all kinds of dynamic and threatening poses and attack poses and all kinds of good stuff, man. I really, really love this thing. As far as the articulation goes, the way they did the torso and the head and the neck is awesome, and it definitely gives you a lot of posability for a character like the Lizard. You know, you could do all kinds of good stuff, all kinds of dramatic and crazy poses. I do wish that he had drop down hips. I think that would have helped out with the crouching forward. Again, like I said before, I think maybe he could have benefited from butterfly joints, and also a toe joint would have been cool. But, you know, even with those things missing, he's got more than enough to have some fun with and to get him into some great poses. So I am extremely satisfied with the articulation on this. And as I've said several times in this video, I'm having a hard time putting him down. He's just so much fun to pose around and play with, man. Alright, so overall, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and it's all said and done, this is an absolutely incredible figure. Hasbro really did an amazing job on pretty much everything. He looks amazing, the sculpting is freaking awesome, so much detail and so comic book accurate. Gentle Giant did an incredible job on the sculpting work, so huge shout out to them. Shout out to Renee Adaltre, I don't know if I said your last name right, homie, but still, awesome work on this, man. You did an incredible job and you just captured that old school vibe perfectly, so hats off to you, man. And, you know, like I said, hats off to Gentle Giant Studios. They always do an incredible job with Legends and just everything they do. But, man, I'm so happy that Hasbro put so much love into this because it came out great. The articulation is incredible. You could definitely have a whole bunch of fun playing with them. I've been posing them around ever since I opened them, and I just can't put him down. He's awesome. And then he does come with some pretty great accessories too, you know. He has 2 different heads, 2 different sets of hands, and then the beakers, or whatever you want to call them. I'm sure that's not the exact scientific term for this equipment, but you know what I'm talking about. He comes with them, it fits with the character, and it's just awesome. The whole thing is extremely satisfying. You know, like I buy a lot of Marvel Legends figures and I think sometimes they kind of get lazy with it. But if they delivered like this every single time, they would be the best action figure line out there by far. This thing is amazing and I freaking love it. You know, recently Hasbro has done some lives and they've kind of been talking about the increase in prices. And sometimes it just kind of sucks, you know, because the prices increase, but the quality doesn't necessarily always do the same thing. But in this case, like, you know, if they need to raise the price a little bit to give us something like this all the time, then I'm okay with it. Like, this guy's gonna retail for, I think, like $29.99, and it's gonna come out this summer through Walmart. So if you want to get this figure, that's the route that you're gonna have to go. This guy is gonna be a little bit more expensive than we've seen for Legends in the past, but in my opinion, it's completely worth it. So I cannot wait to buy this guy. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to send this one back, but as soon as he goes up for pre-order, I'm buying 2 with no hesitation, and I cannot freaking wait because this guy is amazing. Hasbro definitely killed it. Gentle Giant killed it. Just everybody involved did an incredible job. You could definitely feel the love on this figure, so I'm so happy with it. And I can't wait for it to come out. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And that's it. Thank you very much. Peace.